What do you want to talk about? I'm cooking ramen. Thanks for asking. What do you want to talk about? This pan is very heavy. It's making my wrist hurt. What do you want to talk about? We need to talk about how choice can ruin a game. Choice is incredibly important for games, especially detective games like Blackfeather, where players should feel empowered to solve the mystery at any pace, finding clues and talking to townsfolk in whatever order feels natural. But games can feel horrible if choice is used imprecisely. Well, games can also feel horrible when your dialogue UI looks like this, but we're going to solve that in this devlog as well. What do you want to talk about?
Let's break the issue down into large decisions and small decisions because I actually think they have different negative consequences. Some games are written with choice in mind. Think Dragon Age Origins or Disco Elysium. The moral of the story and the point of the game is that your choices impact the outcome of the game, or at least the outcome of how other people in the game world treat your character. This has an incredibly poignant effect when done correctly. I remember playing Undertale for the first time and I could not figure out how to save Undyne. I killed her. And I felt bad about that. And then I was reminded of how bad I felt at the end of the game when she wasn't part of it. That is a moment of gaming I will remember. But many games use choices in a subpar way. A telltale example of this is the Telltale Games Walking Dead series, where large-scale decisions like choosing whether or not to amputate your character's limb has no bearing on the story, when it really should because it's made out as a huge choice. This can create feelings of disappointment or even betrayal in players like me who agonize over consequential decisions that end up not having an impact on the game. If a game is not built around consequences, it should not dissimulate that fact. You don't need choices. Hold on. I don't know who I'm talking to right now, but some game designer out there needs to hear this. You do not need choices in your game. It does not make your game worse. It makes your game honest. Players value honesty. Let's talk about small decisions. My wife recently played through Night in the Woods. I love Night in the Woods. It's one of my favorite indie games that I've played in the last 5 years, but she said something to me while she was playing through it, and it really made me want to make this entire video. As she was playing, she turned to me and she said, "I wish I didn't have to respond so sarcastically." In that moment, I realized that small decisions can have a very large impact on how players feel. This all centers around expectations. If my wife never had the expectation of agency, if she expected to be an observer, she would never have lamented the fact that she couldn't choose the option she wanted. But instead, the game gave her the expectation of choice. It treated her not as an observer, but as an interlocutor. And as a result, the dialogue options given didn't feel like the dialogue options that she would have chosen, the ones that would have expressed herself or expressed the way that she would have thought May would have responded in character. Players ultimately want to feel in control. It's one of the reasons we play games. I dropped something. And even in a visual novel style game, players feel like they have agency in small ways. They're deciding when to talk to NPCs or when to pick up items, when to do the things in the game. You have to be careful with what players are expecting out of your game and make it very clear when to expect agency and when not to expect agency. So what have I done with all this knowledge? First off, Blackfeather will only have choices when it matters. In dialogue, you will have 3 options: chat, share an item, or share a tidbit. Each option will have an impact on how that conversation plays out. There will be a different conversation for each option, and obviously each item or tidbit shared with each character. But beyond that, once the conversation starts, it will go to its end, and then the conversation ends and you will be able to choose another option. I'm really hoping that this clear delineation will help players feel like they understand when they have agency and when they don't. Second, my game will have exactly 2 endings, and the criteria for those endings will be very clearly defined. The first ending, you'll solve the mystery, you'll know all the answers to the big ticket questions like Who was involved? How did this little girl Allison go missing? Why does no one remember her? The second ending will approach the everything is not as it seems effect. We're going to uncover all of the different stories of all of the characters in town and uncover the unsettling fact that maybe this girl's disappearance has more to do with the town than it does with any one individual in it. That's what I'm hoping, at least. Since we're on the topic of dialogue, I would love to share the progress that I've made on dialogue from a UI and UX perspective. First of all, it is so much less buggy. I have worked really hard to make it less buggy. Menus appear and disappear when they are supposed to. I've added several quality of life improvements like quick finishing dialogue. I've also worked really hard on making the UI look more like a detective game. Manila folders and loose papers, paper clips and Polaroids, all of that hokey detective goodness that is noir. See, given Blackfeather is a dialogue-first game, the UX needs to feel polished, no compromises, no cutting corners. I want to work very hard to make sure that even when you just click next box for the dialogue, it just feels right. It has that game juice. I'm really happy with what it turned out like. Massive shout out to my wife, who is so much more art inclined than I am, and honestly should just be a developer on the game with me at this point. She had a couple of awesome recommendations. The most notable being the black outlines around everything. Now you would think that because everything else in my game has this cartoonish black outline where the post-processor is working, you would think that I would internalize that and then know to put those black outlines on everything in my UIs. But no, I didn't, and it looked like this at first. Now my wife luckily took one look at it and she said, "Why don't you have those black outlines around all of your UI elements?" And I went, what was I thinking? That's the art style I'm going for. Art is hard. Art hard. So there's that. I also added some subtle shadows on some of the items to make them look more three-dimensional, and I think that also did wonders. Another pet peeve of mine, sorry, this is out of order. I'm going back to the whole UX quality of life thing. My monkey ADHD, OCD, alphabet soup brain of mine, it clicks through dialogue boxes really fast. I have a problem where I just need to get through dialogue as fast as I can. Because of this tendency, I miss dialogue a lot. That bothers me so much. Actually, it honestly bothers me to the point where if I miss a line of dialogue, I will go to YouTube and I will look up a playthrough of the game and I will see what that character was supposed to say in that line of dialogue I missed, because I cannot stand missing dialogue. I don't know why I'm like this. Please help me. None of that in Blackfeather. I am done with that. I am introducing the sorry, what did you say? So now in Blackfeather, if you ever miss a line of dialogue, sorry, what did you say? That is how it's going to be. I see you, friends. Every one of you who just can't stand missing dialogue but clicks way too freaking fast through all of the dialogue boxes, I see you. I am you, and I am designing for you. I see you. So dialogue. It's done. Tune in next devlog where I'm going to talk about start menus and how I am staunchly opposed to their increasing absence. Seriously, where are start menus going? I feel like I've played multiple games recently where the start menu was just completely gone. And I know you think you're being cute, but you're not being cute. I miss the start menus, and I get upset when the start menus are not there. So we're going to talk about that, and we're going to talk about how I'm going to make a start menu, and then I'm going to put the start menu in the game.